So, welcome back to our playthrough of Trajan. I think today we're really going to start with the actual gameplay, and as this would be the player to my left, I decided that he will go first. And I think we can really get started, so hopefully you have all seen my rule explanation video or introduction video. If not, that's not really a problem, because I will explain the rules as I go, or basically I will explain all the moves or decisions I've been taking so far. And I see I have not cleaned up completely, so let me correct that. So just to put that Trajan token back on its original spot. And yeah, I think we can get started. I think we really should now go and have a look what this red player has. So the starting condition, the cards and so on, and then let's do our placement. Okay, first of all, have a look at our bonus tile here. So basically this bonus tile tells us, hey, you gain 3 victory points for the for each of these jewelry card that's laid out. It's really important that it needs to be laid out. And we gain an additional 3 victory points for each of these diamonds that also need to be laid out. So remember, laying out is an action that you can do at the harbor, or at the seaport action, or during a seaport action. And everything that you have on your hand is not considered as being laid out or played. This is really important. So let's have a look what we have drawn. So this would be jewelry, which is good. This would be the diamonds, and this would be a fish. Even the fish, even though it does not really provide us some direct benefit for this game, it really counts when, for example, exchanging these commodities later on with the ships, or to send these abroad. But I will show you that in a moment. And I think that's more or less what we have on the board. So next thing we would do, we'll have a look at our Mancala style action board here and decide which action we are going to take. So I think the first action for the red player will be pretty simple, because we do have the right cards in our hand already. So basically this jewelry and the diamonds here, and this is really important for playing this in front of you in your personal display. So I think we will go for a C action. And how do we do that? We will just take 2 of these worker stones, of these action stones, and would put them accordingly somewhere here. So let me put that 1 and 2. So we are ending our or we put the last stone on this harbor action, and now with this harbor action we would be allowed to place these 2 cards to our personal display. I will consider this as our personal display for the time being, and this more or less already concludes our action during this turn. So, but which is pretty good. We play 2 cards, and these cards already provide us with 3 victory points at the end of the game, and of course this can be even more later on. And the good thing is, when we only play these cards, so we are not exchanging them with a ship or sending those abroad, we would be allowed to redraw the same amount of cards from the pile, which I will do now. So this is, as you can see, pretty good. So another jewelry and some vases, or it's oil, not so sure what this really is. So, but first of all we have to take this to our hands, and this more or less really concludes our turn. There's only one last thing to do, and this would be to advance the time track. As we played 2 action stones, or moved 2 action stones, we would advance this time marker also 1 spaces ahead. And now it's the turn of the blue player. First of all, let's have a look at what the blue player has to do. So for once he has this special victory card, which says each legionnaire in a province will gain you 2 victory points at the end of the game. So definitely this is something we should go first. We will do that in a second, but still we are allowed to have a look at our hand card here. It's not really that important immediately for any of these direct bonus points, because this is something different, but there are already two bonus stones on the board near the Senate, and you remember you gain these additional bonus tiles when getting a console for a quarter of a year, though this might really be important. So let me show that to you in just moving over here. So let me just go there. Okay, so as you see, there are these two bonus tiles, and this might also come in handy, but I think this might be more important for the red player, as he might really go in the direction of trying to gain some speciality from the commodities here, maybe not for the blue player. Of course, it could also be a good choice to go for that for the blue player, just to make the life of the red player a little bit harder. But I think for now, let's have a look at what the blue player is going to do. And yeah, let's go over to our little action wheel. I think in this very first turn we are really heading for a military action. And how do we do that? Of course, we need to put our last stone on this space here. So we would take the two stones from the seaport action and advance them appropriately. Now it would be important to place the right color to the spot, because as you can see, or maybe you don't see that, so here I'll move that down a little bit. So this could be an important bonus card here, and I think with that then we would fulfill or accomplish this Trajan tile when having two of these yellow stones in that field. So that's why I put already one yellow stone there for later usage, and I would put the last stone here. And now we ending our we are putting our last action stone on this military symbol. We can now decide on what we are going to do. Okay, as mentioned, you have different choices on what you do when you go for a military action here. And one thing would be, of course, to place your leader first. This is important because you cannot advance any legionnaire without a proper leader. This would be one action. One additional action would be to place one new soldier from reserve to the military camp, and or later on move this soldier or legionnaire to a leader. But for now, I think we will just go for the more or less easy part. So we take our leader, put that here on the Alps, and then we would be allowed to gain this bonus token here, which we would place on our board for later usage. And this special bonus card, let me show that to you for a second. This special bonus card then allows us later on to serve as a wild card for any demand that our people may have. So let's put that to the player board back, and then it would be time to advance the time track. As you can see, the single actions don't take too long. Let's advance our time marker here with 2 spaces, because remember we played 2 action stones, and now it's back to the red player. I think in this turn we will play it a little bit different, and I think we are going for a victory tile here, and as we are going to do a Senate action, I think this will be accomplished pretty easy. So we take our 3 stones from here, so, 1, 2 and 3. So for once, first of all, we would do our Senate action. Remember, that's pretty easy. So we take the appropriate stone here, put it here, gain immediately the victory points that are printed here. So in this case it would be 2. So let me just scroll over a little bit. So 1, 2, blue stays here. And now we would have 2 votes for this quarter already, which is not additionally bad. We are allowed to take this Trajan tile because we accomplished the 2 colors here with these 2 stones, so yellow. So this Trajan tile goes now out of the game, but it gives us instantly 9 additional victory points, which will bring us up to 11 victory points already. And this already concludes this turn of the red player, and now getting back to the blue player. There's one more thing to do. Of course, we need to advance the time track, and we moved 3 stones in this round for the red player, so this will be 1, 2, 3. So we are already coming closer to the end of the round, but now it's really going over to the blue player. Still, the blue player wants to go for the military action because for his bonus tile here, but he cannot do so at this point in time. There's not the right amount of stone combinations to make him end up on this spot here. So I think he will play it easy and go for the construction area by placing here 1 and 2. So this would allow him to do a construction action. So the blue player would be now allowed to either place a worker from his reserve here on the worker camp, or placing 1 worker from the worker camp to the matrix here. And I think we will going to do that. So we will take the blue player here, so to this spot. So for once, this will give us 5 victory points. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then we are allowed to place that window on this spot, and because this is the first window we're placing here on that spot, we instantly gain the action that's printed on top of this region, and this would be again the military action. Now we will place our soldier to the space where our leader already is. This will give us an additional 3 victory points for this round. 1, 2, 3. And this now really concludes the turn. Only, of course, one thing to do, and this would be the time track. So 1 and 2, as we played only 2 stones in this round, and it's over. Back to the red player. Okay, I forgot one thing, of course. We would be able to claim this Trajan tile because we ended the turn on this space here, and there are the matching colors on that, so the blue player would gain an additional 9 victory points. I'm already starting to cheat here, but I really try to keep out, to watch out and not to do that too often, so please remember me as often as you can. So the blue player is now up at 17 victory point. Not too bad actually. But now really let's get over to the red player. Like the blue player, the red player will also go for a construction action. So this would be 1, 2 and 3. And the action we are going to do, we will place the worker here on this fountain. So take this away. We gain the 5 victory points for that one. We would place it on the according spot here. Remember, it's the first construction we are doing here, so we would be allowed to do a free seaport action. And with this free seaport action, we will play our jewelry to our personal display here. So remember, at the end of the game, this is an additional 3 victory points, and we would be allowed to draw 1 card from the stack here, place it to our hand, and then it would be over to the time track. So we placed 3 stones, so we would advance 1, 2, 3. Now we come over this arrow. Remember, it doesn't matter if we land on it or cross it, the game round automatically ends, but a game round is not that drastic. What we do, we will also only flip over a demand token, so this is something that our people wants from us at the end of this quarter, so we need to fulfill 1 bread demand here by the end of the quarter. So I think the blue player wants to get the pink action stones on this space as soon as possible to gain the bread Trajan tile here, and I think he will go then for a Trajan action. So he will take out these 3 stones here, 1, 2, 2 and 3. So we will land on this Trajan space here. As our Trajan action, we will be just allowed to draw a Trajan tile. As we are still going for our bonus tile here for having as many soldiers as possible in our provinces, I decided to go for a military Trajan tile. So we would place that here where our Arc of Trajan currently is, and we would move the Arc of Trajan to the next free location, which would be the 3 spot here. So in the next turns we would be allowed to go for this additional military action Trajan tile, which would allow us to place a soldier into the province, and of course later on to gain or directly gain 5 victory points. Still, we need to advance the time tracks, so this were 3 stones, so it's 1, 2 and 3. And it's now over to the red player, and you might already have noticed that that I already or again forgot to claim a Trajan tile for the red player, so let's do that instantly. Remember, during the last turn we ended our movement here, and as you can see we have a blue and an orange stone on that space here, so we would be allowed to gain this Trajan tile. So for once we would be allowed to place 2 soldiers to the military camp. Let's do that right away. So that would be 1 and 2, and additionally we would be allowed to gain 2 victory points. 1 and 2. It's still a close call, I would call here. But now let's really start the official turn of the red player. The red player also is going for this Trajan tile here, so he will take this 4 stones here, so this will be 1, 2, 3 and 4. So again he would end his movement on this Senate action, so this would move him 1 space to the right and directly provides him with 3 additional victory points. That's 1, 2 and 3. Hope you can still see that. Yes, and this time we won't forget to reclaim our Trajan tile because we ended our movement, so I will lay that down here, so we gain 1 additional victory points, and we will then allowed to place this Trajan tile on our player board. So we place that down here. Remember, this Trajan tile really now serves as 1 resource for each quarter until the end of the game. So definitely not a bad movement for the red player. And let's do the last thing for this round, which would be to move the time track 4 spaces ahead. 1, 2, 3 and 4. And over to the blue player. Even though that's not important for him, he still wants to make sure that he gets the spread sooner or later, so he will take this mold here. So it goes for 1, 2, 3 and 4. And this would mean we are allowed to do a seaport action. And I think for the seaport action we will do that pretty simple. We will just play our 3 cards here. Remember, there are these ship icons on the seaport, and this special ship allows us when we send the goods away. So whenever we are going to send 3 different spaces away, for once we will flip the ship, so the next player is not allowed to gain the same amount of victory points, but for us, as we are sending 3 different commodities abroad, we would be allowed to gain 6 victory points. For once, place this ship back here, and let's move our blue marker 6 spaces ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Still a close call. They are very close by to each other, and then let's see what the time track says. Like in Merchant Marauders, time is really fleeting, so we would be allowed to move the time track 4 spaces, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, we cross the starting point here, which means we have to draw or flip another resource or demand token. In this case this would be a game symbol like gladiator or something like that, so bread and games. I'm not so sure if that's the right translation for that. I think you know where I'm coming from here, and this concludes the turn of the blue player. So I think the red player really needs to go for a Trajan action, because as you see there are no Trajan tiles on his board, so he will take all his 5 action stones here. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. This would allow him to draw a Trajan tile. And as you can see, there is already a cool Trajan tile that might become in handy pretty soon, so he will go for this Trajan tile. He will place the Trajan tile on the spot where the Arc of Trajan currently is. This will move 1 space ahead, and as you can see we have already 2 stones of the matching color in that space. quickly move the time track 5 spaces, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back over to the blue player. The blue player really wants to have that bread right now, so I think he will go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this mold here, and we'll do it accordingly, so but have to be careful. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So for once we have to do our Senate action. Let's move the blue player ahead and provide him with 2 additional victory points. That's 1 and 2. And then he would be allowed to take this bread Trajan tile as well. That would give him an additional 1 victory point. I do that without showing you, trust me. And now he's also prepared at least for the bread, but still they need to go for the game tiles here. And I think these were also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actions, so let's move the time track accordingly. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we end on the spot, so this means we still have to flip over 1 additional tile here. So this is a religious demand, so this is also a resource we need until the end of the quarter. And remember, the end of the quarter is pretty nearby, and both players only have 1 resource at this point in time. So let's see what the red player can do about that. I think the red player will go for the forum action here, so this would be 1, 2 and 3. So we will land here on the forum action. Because there's only 1 gladiator tile left, he's going to take this one, and then he would be allowed to place that here. But remember, all tiles below here needs to be discarded when you want to satisfy the needs of your people here. Good thing is we only move 2 stones, so also the time track moves only 2 spaces, and now it's over to the blue player again. Let's see, so I think the blue player will go for the C action here, 1, 2 and 3. So for the seaport action he would then just draw, I think, let me see, I think he will draw 2 random cards from the deck. So these are those, so a fish and a jewelry, which is good. So this is something that the red player cannot draw here. This was the first seaport action, but as we ended our space here and we have the matching stone there, we would we can take this Trajan tile here, which gives us 5 victory points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the special action for this Trajan tile allows the blue player to place a soldier to the military camp. So this concludes the Trajan tile as well. So we also discard that or remove it from the game and move the time track 3 more spaces. So we're really coming closer to the end of the quarter. Red will play it safe, and I think he will just move this 1. So he would be allowed to do another seaport action, and I think for this seaport action he would play 1 card from his hand, which would be this. He will just play that out on the left, I show you that in a second, and would be allowed to draw an additional card, which is some fruit. And of course he's also allowed to gain this 5 victory points. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And of course he would be allowed to do the proper special action from this tile. In this case this would mean to place a worker to the worker camp. So let's do that very quick. So at least he's closer to placing an additional worker to there, and it's really important for him because he really needs to go for another forum action for the demands here, and I think he will go in that direction later on. But first of all, move the time track, which is pretty fast. This is only 1 space at this point in time, and it's now over to the blue player. The blue player will also play it safe and will go to the military action here, and this would allow him to place his leader in this region over here, and he would be allowed to take this resource token into his reserve for later usage and for fulfilling the needs of his people. So the blue player also can fulfill these two requirements here, but still not this one. There's one thing to do. We need to advance the stone here, and then it's off to the red player. The red player will be a little bit mean, so we will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So he keeps that here, so he went one time around. This would allow him to go for a forum action, and with his forum action he will go for this religious token, which he will place onto his reserve. And now let's advance the time track. Remember, these were 6 stones, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and as there are already laying out 3 demand tokens, we would now end the quarter officially. And this is pretty easy. We will just take this first tile here away from the pile, so it now shows these 2, and we are officially in the second quarter. And let's see what that really means for the players. For once, both players have to fulfill the requirements of the people. So let's see how the red player does that. So there are these 3 demands. So bread, games and religion. So bread is relatively simple. He has that as a Trajan tile, so no problem here. The game can be bought with this one here, with this tile, and the religion token can be bought with this one. So the red player is pretty good off with no problems. He could fill all the needs or demands from his people, so he suffers no victory points loss. Let's see what the blue player can do about that. Of course, there are also the same demands. So there is this bread, there is the games, and there is the religion token. Bread, he's the same, he has the Trajan tile, so no problem for him. The play symbol is also not a problem. He has that in his reserve, so just discard it and he's good off. Now it's getting problematic. He has this religious tile here. Of course, as you can see, there are no Trajan tiles and there are no resources in his reserve, but he's good off because he chose this wildcard tile, and this special wildcard tile serves really as a wildcard for each demand, so he can also spend this one here pretty easily, and then he would also have fulfilled all the 3 needs from the people. So for both players in this quarter there is not a problem. Next, let's see who will get to be the consul, and this is also pretty simple. As you can see, the red player has 3 votes, the blue player has 2 votes. Both players do not have any special votes tokens for forum tiles in their reserve, so it's easy going. The red player is going to be the consul and can choose for which bonus tile he goes, and as he's far the commodity guy, I think he will really go for taking this tile here and puts it onto his reserve. So we just place it beside the other one, so he would then also gain 3 victory points for these stone here and for the furs, and that was the reason why I chose to draw this stone card from the commodity pile early on, or play this commodity tile early on. So let me show you to this. And as you can see, we have this one. This is 3 victory points, these 2 are 6 victory points, and this is also 3 victory points. So he's pretty good equipped in respect to endgame results, but still, as this is a 2-player game and there's always a vice consul, the blue player can flip this over and also can take this bonus tile to his reserve, and this would bring him 6 victory points at the end of the game for each bread he has in the reserve that he has not spent for fulfilling any needs. And remember, this also the Trajan tiles do not count for these victory points. So let's place this also beside the other one here. And now it's time for doing the whole cleanup for this phase and then prepare everything for the second quarter. For once we have to reset all the votes, and we would place the player with the lowest votes on the bottom and put the player with the most votes on top of it. So the blue player goes first in the next quarter, which is still a pretty good way to go for. Next, we would then need to clean out the forum completely, and we do that also for these 3 special actions here. And then let's refill the special actions for once with new tiles from the reserve, as well as placing new forum tiles from the reserve to the normal forum here. So remember, this would be 6 for, I think it's that way, 6 for a 2-player game. Normally we would also be allowed to restock the provinces, and as you can see, there are indeed 2 provinces that do not have any forum tiles on it, but you're only allowed to restock those if there is no military presence in that region. So neither a leader or a legionnaire must be present to allow the restock of these provinces. Also, we would need to remove any Senate tiles that would be gathered by the player, and that's independent if they have been used or not. In this case, neither of these players had any Senate tiles on their player board. And last but not least, we will flip all the ship icons or ship tokens back to their colored side, and this concludes nearly the preparation for quarter 2, because there is still one more thing to do, which is, of course, to restock the bonus tiles for the Senate. But now this is really it. As we know, the blue player goes first during the next quarter, and then let's see how the game progresses. So I will close the session for today. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you understand it. Hopefully I didn't make too many mistakes, so please be nice, and yeah, but still make me aware of any mistakes or any points I might have forgotten to give them to each player. Still, I don't favor any of these colors, so really I don't care who wins in the end. And yeah, hope to see you soon in the next episode of my playthrough of Trajan, and until then, bye bye.